Stella raised an eyebrow at my shocked expression. Is everything all right? Fine, I nodded, and continued to braid her hair. We sat in silence for a bit. That dark hair, the pale skin, the same curve of the nose, the same lips, the same delicate features. There was only one explanation. Haltingly, I asked, "So, Stella, your mother, you were very close to her, weren't you?" It was a pitiful attempt at starting a conversation, but my mind was numb. "Oh yes," she said quietly, "Mummy and I were very close. She was my best friend. I know it sounds weird, having your mother as your best friend, but I was shy in school and didn't have that many people to talk to. Mummy was always there to talk to me, and I listened to her too. You must have many good memories of her." "Yeah," she sighed, a tear forming at the corner of her eye. "I just don't understand why she left us like that. I was so mad at her, you know. For the first couple of weeks, I didn't even feel sad. I just felt angry. I'm sorry, I regretted delving into such a sensitive topic. On a Monday morning, no less. I finished Stella's braids. She got up and impulsively gave me a hug. "Promise me you won't leave us," she murmured. Then, her voice faltered. It seemed like she wanted to say something else, but hesitated against it. Finally, her voice reduced to a whisper. She said, "Promise me you won't let him hurt you." Without another word, she left. I stood there, trying to process what she had just said. A sudden buzz from my pocket interrupted my reverie. It was a text from Mark. "Miss me, babe," he had written, followed by a kissing face. I shuddered. "Promise me you won't let him hurt you. Promise me." "Oh Stella, what did you mean?" I drove the kids to school and went to work myself. I was one of 3 librarians at the local branch. Today, the library was all but empty, and it gave me time to think over the events of the past week. The library closed at 5. The kids were already home by the time I had arrived. Stella had made sure her younger siblings had their after-school snack and that they had finished their homework. She even got started on making supper. She was the one who pulled the family through and took on the role of mother after the tragedy. Certainly a very responsible young girl. I helped her with supper, and we ate together as a family. "When's Daddy coming back?" Olive, the youngest girl, asked. "He told me in a few days," I replied. "He's not usually gone for this long," Victor, the only boy, lamented. "Oh?" My ears perked up. "How long is he gone for, usually?" "Just Sunday. Sometimes Saturday," Leah said. "Sometimes he's home before supper. Sometimes he stays over at a friend's house near the golf course." "Your dad really loves golf, huh? When did he start playing?" "Around 3 years ago," Leah told me, "after Mom killed herself." "Leah," Stella hissed. "What?" Leah looked at her older sister with wide eyes. "It's not a secret, is it?" "Dad said golf helped him relax and deal with the pain," Stella told me. "Honestly, it's why he's stayed so sane these past few years." "I guess you'll be our mommy soon?" Olive asked. I suppose so," I stuttered. "Of course, you don't have to think of me as your mommy. Unless you want to." "I'm going to call you mommy," Olive smiled a toothless grin. My heart swelled. Oh, she was just adorable. "Don't scare her, Olive," Leah rolled her eyes, "or else she's going to bail on us like Jess did." Jess was Mark's ex-girlfriend, who supposedly left him because she was overwhelmed by the idea of being a stepmother. "Stop talking, Leah," Stella warned her again. We ate in silence. "I'm sorry about Leah," Stella apologized after dinner. "She doesn't know when to stop sometimes." "Oh, no worries. It's good she's being so open about everything. She seems to have taken it well." "It's an act," Stella sighed. In truth, she was the most devastated out of all of us. I was angry, but she was just sad. She cried for months, and had these awful night terrors. She'd wake up in her sleep, screaming, and I'd try to get her to tell me what was wrong, but she said she couldn't remember. "That's terrible," I murmured. "Yeah. All our lives were turned upside down. Everything was different. Daddy moved us out of our old house. He sold his car because it reminded him too much of Mom. He sold the cottage. His sister lived with us for a bit. I didn't like her, although she helped us a lot. He even stopped going to church because... Wait. I blinked. Cottage. Yeah. Our lake house. He sold it because there were too many memories there, he said. I wish he didn't. I loved going there every summer. What was it like? It was cozy. Not like those fancy cottages rich people have, but it was good enough for us. Daddy and Mommy would paint it every spring, and I got to pick the color. The last year we were there, they painted it lavender, my favorite color. Our uncle said it looked hideous, but I loved it. Lavender. I vaguely remember the purple tinge of the chipping paint. A stark contrast from the dull plywood used to board up the windows. Stella, my voice grew low. What did you mean when you said this morning, "Promise me you won't let him hurt you"? Stella was alarmed by the sudden change in conversation. "Oh, she faltered, "nothing. I was just emotional after talking about Mum's death. I kind of blamed my dad for it, but that's stupid. Dad is a wonderful dad. I shouldn't have spoken about him like that." Her face flushed red, and she busied herself with the dishes. Stella went to bed early that night. I made the rounds, tucking in the kids and kissing them goodnight. I already felt like a mother to them. With the kids asleep, I decided it was time to get to the bottom of this. I searched the house for clues. Papers, documents, pictures, something. Anything to prove that Mark's wife was dead. I found nothing. It seemed as if Mark had effectively erased all traces of his wife's existence. I even looked through the boxes in the basement. One caught my eye. It was labeled toys for donation, but it certainly didn't sound like there were any toys in there. I pried open the box and found what I had been looking for. The first item that caught my eye was a thick photo album. I looked inside and it was blank. My heart dropped. Then, when I lifted the book up, something fell out. It was a faded Polaroid, and the caption said, "Our first date." There was Mark, young and handsomer than ever, with his arm around a young woman. The same young woman from the cabin. Stella's mother. His wife. I dropped the picture like it was on fire. Rummaging further through the box didn't yield much, except an envelope labeled to J and a thin diary. I opened the envelope, and revealed a letter in distinctively feminine handwriting. Harry. I tried writing this letter to you in my head so many times, even drafted it out as an email, but I could never bring myself to press send. You know how much you mean to me, and how much I appreciate all your much-needed comfort and help. I still cherish the many memories we shared together, our brunches, our inside jokes, our sunset walks by the lake. I miss those days with you, and how your booming laugh filled up my house. But ultimately, I've come to realize that my priority is my family, my kids, and my husband, Mark. You understand, I'm sure. After all, it was you who warned that what we were doing was risky, and even dangerous. Sincerely, Jasmine. What an odd little letter. Who was Harry? And why was the phrasing so awkward? The letter gave me nothing but more questions. "What you reading there?" I gasped and turned around. It was Stella, standing over me. How had I not noticed her before? "Nothing," I mumbled, stuffing the letter back into the box and pocketing the diary. "What are you looking for?" she asked, eyeing the box curiously. "Your father told me he wanted to wear a pair of cufflinks that belonged to his grandfather for the wedding, and I wanted to find it for him." My face was flushed, and my voice trembled. "You're lying," she said tersely. For a second, we stared at each other wordlessly. Then, finally, she turned to leave. I let out a breath. Stella was on to me. I wanted so badly to tell her the truth, but what was the truth? Even if I knew it, would she be ready to handle it? Would I be ready? Needless to say, I slept poorly again that night. I sat in bed and opened Jasmine's diary. The very first entry was dated from 4 years ago, June the 12th. Another day. I took the girls to the bookstore and decided to buy this diary. It doesn't have a lock though, which kind of sucks, and I guess this means I have to find a place to hide it. Mark's back from his trip, and he's more paranoid than ever. I had to beg him to even let me go to the bookstore. My eyes widened. Was Mark really like that? He didn't seem controlling whatsoever. Certainly not the type to forbid his wife from leaving the house. Intrigued, I flipped through the pages, and another entry caught my eye. September the 30th. Parent-teacher meetings today. I couldn't go because of my face. Mark really lay into me last night. I looked like a goddamn raccoon. But I heard from him that Stella's doing well at school. Not many friends, but at least she gets good grades. She reminds me a lot of myself when I was young. November the 2nd. Electrician came over to fix our kitchen lights. He was nice and stayed over for lunch. He's coming over tomorrow to finish the job. November the 8th. Bumped into Harry the electrician at the gym today. He helped me with my workout. He made me laugh for the first time in months. I like him. November the 19th. Think Mark is catching on. He asked me why I always go to the gym now. I made up some lame excuse about wanting to look good in a bikini during our trip to Cuba. He told me he was going to cancel my gym membership. December the 4th. Harry came over today. Asked me if I was okay, because he hadn't seen me at the gym in weeks. I told him about Mark. He said I deserved better. Right, as if. Over the next few months, Jasmine continued to document her friendship with Harry, which eventually led to a romantic relationship. February the 14th. Valentine's Day. Harry came over under the pretense of fixing our switchboard in the basement. He brought me roses, and even gave one to Stella. She likes him too, I could tell. Thank God Mark is away on his business trip. If he was home for Valentine's Day, I wouldn't be able to stand it. I remember our first Valentine's Day together. We went skating on the ice rink in front of the old town hall. I thought I was the luckiest girl on earth. Imagine, a shy, plain girl like me, holding the hands of this handsome, charming young man. What did he see in me, I used to wonder. I certainly didn't think I was worthy of his love. I thought it was only going to get better from there. Stupid little girl I was. It only got worse. April the 7th. I called Harry at midnight, crying, begging him to come over. I'm losing it. I can't stand it anymore. I don't even want to look at Mark's face. The other night I realized, unless I did something, I'd have to live with this pig of a man for the rest of my life. I know I always thought I didn't deserve love, but God, I finally realized I'd rather be alone than live like this. I'm finally in love, real love, and I want to actually be happy for once. Harry said he understood. Harry said he loved me. I think, with his help, I'll finally have the courage to leave. The next page was empty, and all the pages following. April the 7th was her last journal entry. I wanted to go downstairs to the basement and look for more clues, but I was scared of what I'd find. Again, I barely slept that night. I felt like crap the next day. Still, I dutifully packed the kids' lunches and drove them to school. Stella seemed to forget about last night and lapsed back to her reserved, quiet self. I decided to call in sick for work. Mark was supposed to be coming home tomorrow, and I still didn't have the whole story. So I went back to the lake house, knowing that I'd somehow be able to find out the truth there. But before I left, I told my sister what was happening, that I suspected Mark was cheating on me and I was going to his cottage to find out. She wanted to come with me, but I said that this was something I had to do alone. I tried my best to retrace the route Mark had taken, but it was hard. I got lost many times and was ready to call it quits until I stumbled upon a familiar dip in the road. I finally arrived at the site of the cottage and parked behind the large tree like before. Mark's car was there, parked right at the front of the door. I stopped the engine, and suddenly, tears filled my eyes. He was in there. Regardless of what I found, his wife or somebody else, the truth was that my fiance had been lying to me. Had been lying to me for the whole time, probably. But I steeled myself. Woman up, I whispered. I predialed 911 on my phone and wrapped my hands around a Swiss Army knife I had gotten as a present from my father. I tiptoed to the cabin and crouched down beneath the windows, hoping to hear voices. But all I heard was silence. I took a picture of Mark's car. I needed evidence. Cautiously, I went around to the back. I heard a laugh, but it wasn't coming from inside. I peered around the corner of the cabin, and what I saw made my heart hurt. I saw a couple sitting on the dock, their backs towards me. His arm was draped over her, she leaned her head against his shoulder. The waters sparkled underneath the midday sun. She was feeding the loons swimming on the lake with breadcrumbs and pieces of crackers. She extended a hand out, and that's when I noticed the metal cuffs on her wrist. He kissed her hair with a tenderness that made me ache. That's when I took a step back, as he had turned his head in my direction ever so slightly. "Babe, it seems like we have a visitor," he told her calmly. They both turned their heads to face me. Her face was spotted with bruises, and a dark purple line was etched into her neck. I ran. I could hear Mark chase after me, and I ran like my life depended on it. I finally grabbed onto the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Curse this stupid old car, I thought. I reached into my pocket for my phone, but realized I had dropped it somewhere in my frenzy. Got you, Mark caught up to me, and grabbed my wrists. You sick lying bastard. I screamed, struggling and kicking with all my might. Just couldn't mind your damn business, could you? He spat, I'm taking you inside. No, I yelled. I did my best to fight him off, but he was so strong. He dragged me all the way to the front of the cabin, through the open door. It was so dark and decrepit inside. He dragged me downstairs to the basement. When we reached the bottom, I stopped fighting and he loosened his grasp on me ever so slightly, just enough to give me leverage and kick him where it hurts most. He groaned and doubled over in pain. I took this as my cue to leave. I hastily scrambled up the stairs, across the tiny living room, and towards the front door, which was still open. But she was standing there, staring at me with a blank expression in her brown eyes, a block of plywood in her hands. Jasmine, I cried, let's go. Run to my car, quick. I can help you. She shook her head sadly, and walked towards me, arms raised. No, I whispered.